let's go to the information about what's happening in the world. Check out this image. Well, from robotics towards, well, hands, towards feet, towards, in this case, now the hands of robots are becoming more and more functional, but also with the possibility of replacing a hand. Evil. Well, we can give a hand to a person who doesn't have one, an intelligent hand. Now, light, smart, to live a more or less normal life, let's say. And this is becoming more and more possible. The production of this type of tool is going to bring about a big change for many people who don't have a hand, who don't have an arm, who don't have a foot. It's obviously important. What's happening in the Middle East? What's happening with Iran? What's going on in Russia? What's happening in the world? Let's get into the details, but also this image that has surprised everyone. This is already episode number 49 of Kilauea, according to what the NOAA reports. The very active Kilauea continues to be amazing. The lava fountains that this volcano is generating over there in Hawaii, pay attention to that. It's also important. Ukrainian drones are reported attacking different points of the Rovinsk depot. More images keep appearing. There they go. There's a drone, and in the background, you can see the attacks on the depots. Yay. 60 depots that were in the Russian State Reserve have been attacked, and there was no way that swarm wouldn't hit the area. 60 depots have been attacked. How many of those depots have survived? Well, we don't know. We'll have to look into it in detail. But obviously, this is part of that conflict. And that's how it went. One would arrive, then another, and so on. The swarm of drones attacking those depots at a point where Russia was saying it didn't want to negotiate, but the war is getting closer and closer. Well, it's already inside Russia, but obviously it's tremendous. The situation also draws attention. And let's pause for a moment on this, what we see there. In the background, those would be the remains of a plane from an incident, an accident. A plane that was carrying 11 parachutists and a pilot, all 12, lost their lives. 11 parachutists and the pilot died. Near the Butler Memorial Airport in Missouri, this is reported by Fox 4. It's a terrible situation, right? Because there's this aviation incident, and then there's the incident with the two helicopters that collided in Rio de Janeiro. Over there in Brazil, in Recreio do Bandeira, earlier in this area. And, well, in the face of these situations, obviously this is a topic that's just amazing, right? What they're experiencing in that sense. Well, let's get to the information. Let's get to the details. They're warning that the United Kingdom has made a move that could raise alarms with Russia. And look at this move the United Kingdom made. It's surprising. Look, there's the helicopter. It's flying and it's landing on a helicopter. On a, what's it called? A Russian ship. Let's listen to this. In an unprecedented move, according to the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense, British forces boarded a tanker from the Shadow Fleet, or the Russian Ghost Fleet, which is under sanctions. It's called the Smithros. This happened in the English Channel during the night. They say this is an unprecedented operation of its kind. This type of operation had not been seen before, and, well, in this part of the world. Right in between what is Europe, between what is France and the United Kingdom. This movement, this situation would have happened, right? Well, look. Well, I mean, with everything we're seeing, all the back and forth that's going on, right? In this area, in the English Channel. And look where these ships go, right? I mean, this is France. This is the United Kingdom. And the Russian ships come in here. Russian ships, even military ones. This time it wasn't a military ship, but rather an oil tanker from the Shadow Fleet. Yes, they're the ones with vessels that don't meet the requirements to operate. And they operate off the coast of France, off the coast of the United Kingdom. Where was that oil going to be sold? Who in Europe was it going to be sold to? Or who was it going to be sold to, right? I mean, honestly, it's really striking that these ships are coming in there. Now, these ships are also accused not only of carrying oil, but also of carrying drones, missiles, and other kinds of military equipment, not just oil. So let's see if something is discovered. Okay. With this interception, because in the end, that's what it is, an interception after all, right? An interception right in front of the coast of this country, right? According to the Royal Marines, commandos and agents from the National Crime Agency, they boarded the Les Smithros, a sanctioned ship used by Moscow to evade the restrictions imposed because of the invasion of Ukraine. Prime Minister Starmer himself reportedly described this situation as a move, well, as a new successful blow against the Russian regime. The minister said the ship will be moved to the southern coast of England and kept under surveillance. The British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, called the operation successful. At least that's what he said. We haven't seen Russia's reaction yet, but there will surely be reactions. Less for. Other European countries like France, Belgium, and Finland have also recently been detaining suspicious Russian vessels belonging to the Shadow Fleet and for violating the restrictions imposed on Russian fossil fuels. Also an important part of what's happening right now in that region of the world, right? I mean, it's this, but in the end, it's an increasingly visible movement of more pressure, obviously, towards that part of the world, right? To the Minister of Accounts, Vladimir Putin, well, he's calculating how long he can sustain the war. And among those calculations, he announced that this is another one. The ship was moved to the coast of England and to Bajo. Tiene que ser, pues, esta otra parte, ¿verdad? La de... the one of a world that doesn't want this, well, that it's operating that way, basically, right? Now pay attention to the following, right? Pay attention to the following because we also have this other image. Let's take a look. Look, it's being reported. Let's see if we can spot it. Let's see. Sorry, disturbances are being reported. Later I think we'll go live with that or something because disturbances are being reported over there in Switzerland. Yes, this is because of the G7 in Geneva, right? Later we'll see more details about the situation because they say there are disturbances. It seems there are people detained. I mean, it's something that's also drawing attention today. So stay tuned for that situation. Meanwhile, what's going on in Iran, Israel, and other regions? Let's discuss the details. Hey, well, something is happening inside Iran, right? There are some movements going on. It looks like there's going to be a shift. There's going to be a change there. There are talks about operations taking place in different locations. So let's get into the details because this is still information that we need to wait for more details on. We need to wait for more confirmations and things like that. But there is a strategy there as well, right? A strategy to put more pressure on these people in the end. These possible agreements that could happen, although they insist that those agreements are almost impossible at this point, that's what is known right now. Let's go over some details, right? First of all, let's see. Iran has already has not yet rejected the agreements. Let's see. Iran rejects Trump's statement in Axios that the agreement will be signed in the next few hours, calling it disconnected from reality, since nothing has been finalized and there is no agreement, especially after Israel's attack on Beirut, according to what the Iranian agency Tasmin says. That's the situation. The senior member of Iran's negotiation team, Marandi, separately states that there will be no further negotiations for now. So, goodbye to negotiations on Iran's part. Pay attention to that issue. Another matter as well. How have you been, Panterita? Garman? Cheers, Yvonne. How have you been, Lily? Very good. Greetings to everyone, community, and thanks for asking about the eye, right? It's doing okay. Look, yeah, This is my first black eye. But well, you know, because of things, because of the hazards of being a tennis player, not because I hit myself with my own racket. Now, in the middle of all this back and forth and everything going on, when the Iranians shot down that one, that American helicopter, do you remember? I mean, when they decided to shoot down an Apache helicopter, they decided to do it because that was basically the only red line that Trump had set. I mean, they had already attacked the Kuwaitis. They had attacked American bases. We're taking a moderate approach, right? So up to that point, negotiations were still ongoing. But when they shot down, actually, even when they shot down the helicopter, he was going to continue with the negotiations because the crew members didn't lose their lives. There were 2 of them. They survived, actually, without any injuries or anything. They were rescued by a US Marine drone. The Marine drone went for them, rescued them, and brought them back, right? No problems. But I mean, they survived. So he's going to continue the negotiation until suddenly Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, you know, from the Pentagon, tells him, hey, wait a minute. You have to respond. If you were attacked and two soldiers went down, even if nothing happened to them, you have to respond. So while he says, okay, so they respond, ta, and they start shooting and attacking, attacking. And then he sends them the notice. That's it. We're not going to attack anymore. This was because of the helicopter, but that's where it ends, right? That's where it stops. What do you think? No? That's fine. Okay, let's negotiate. They sit down to negotiate the negotiation. I insist. Negotiate the negotiation, right? So in the middle of all this tug of war, or in the middle of this whole situation, there's a complete turnaround, a shift, because suddenly both of them say, let's negotiate. And they sit down to negotiate the Olan, or to negotiate the negotiation. Let's say we go back to the same thing, but suddenly information comes out from Israel that they don't want to negotiate. It's totally inconvenient for them because they would leave the Hezbollah movement alive. And them? Well, they would say, I would just say the monster would be growing right in front of them in Lebanon. And besides, on this side, inside Iran, the problem would also be growing. So they don't agree in that sense. So an Israeli official told the Israeli media outlet called Isnet, when the Iranians shot down the American helicopter, Trump ordered a tough response after a while, even though there were no casualties. Yes, why? So what is allowed for the United States is forbidden for Israel. I mean, because Israel says, why can you respond when there were no casualties? And this time, Hezbollah fires at Israel, and there were no casualties either. Why can't it respond in the same way as the United States, right? That's the question raised by an Israeli official, isn't it? So pay attention to that issue, because obviously this is taking on a tone of saying, let's see, you can, but I can't. What's going on? Are we allies or not? And so on, right? Now, according to Iranian Channel 12, Israeli Channel 2, Tehran rejected Trump's financial offer in exchange for restraint. Yes, Iran says that the response is coming soon. So Tehran rejects the financial offer. They didn't like it. And well, they're going to give an answer soon. Now, a military response, this response is about the agreement. A response about whether it's true that there are talks about arrests in Kuwait, about alleged drones. Let's see. Because look, normally when that happens, the imagery on intelligence sites immediately goes to 100%. And right now, up to this moment, they're not, right? There's only the suspicion that something is coming, that something is approaching, and a lot of rumors, right? But information isn't based on that. You can't base it on rumors or on it's coming or almost here. No, we'll have to wait for the actual details. Right now, a lot of information is coming in about the back and forth between them, about how there's clearly a split. They don't want to continue, right? Especially regarding that topic. And well, that's how it's going, right? That's the direction it's heading, right? But, honestly, what I see, I don't know what you all think, but what I see this time is that there won't be an agreement, right? I would be very surprised if there was a real agreement, not just a pre-agreement, right? The pre-agreement, I would honestly be surprised. So how have you been, Panterita? Hello, Lily. What's up? Greetings.
He says, keep an eye on that issue. This is good.
It's in all matter and everything. We're obviously going to be updating this ride-sharing situation throughout the day. But on a different note, there's an earthquake happening right now in an area that has given us several scares lately, right? Let's see if the earthquake is already on the USGS, which I think it's not. It doesn't even show up on the USGS, but they're already reporting it from Greece. Yeah, let me see if I can report it. Look, they are already reporting it on the USGS. I just saw it. But hold on a second. We'll get to the Spain news in a moment, by the way. They're having some huge fires over there. There it is. This is supposedly a 5.4 earthquake. Let's see if the USGS confirms it as such. But for now, the 4.9, not 5.4. The point is that there's an earthquake in the southern part of Greece. Supposedly at a depth of 21 kilometers, right? The USGS says it's 10 kilometers deep. But the main point is that this earthquake felt intense. Pay attention to that. This earthquake, in the end, is similar to the one that happened in this other area. It's not considered an aftershock, but it's still an important earthquake, especially for the area that's not on the Pacific side. We're talking about the Mediterranean Sea, which isn't that common, but there are also occasional earthquakes there. Well, that's how things are. Just take a look at this situation. Look, in a moment we'll talk about this in the next report, in the next live broadcast. Three things, but mainly an unusual declassification from the Pentagon, which I think by now they're all unusual, right? But this one in particular is very unusual because they talk about these spheres that appear in the sky, but about a mother sphere, right? About a mothership, in quotes. I don't know what it is. Right, but it's a kind of big sphere that releases little spheres, that has its little spheres there, right? So obviously it's very interesting, isn't it? Let's talk about what the Pentagon says, what's happening in Switzerland, right? We just saw the G7 getting intense. There are disturbances at the G7, pay attention to that. Watch out for this girl. She was just trolling me, and fires in Spain are also serious, they're intense. And well, that's also interesting, obviously, within everything that's happening. Let's also get into the details of the comments, because obviously the idea here is to have a space for you to comment. And if you want to send audio, send the audio, send your opinions about how things are or your reports from wherever you are. Carmen, how have you been? Big greetings. Panterita Adilson. Edgar, how have you been? Thanks for your comment. Edgar Humberto, how are you doing? Big greetings to the Masters of Wilkoff as well. Talks to the whole community. We're done. Terminator, how have you been? Big greetings to the whole community that's greeting us right now. Thank you very much for joining us. Who else is here? For those who haven't commented, let's see if someone wants to comment as well. Awesome. We really appreciate your participation. Well, Terminator, what do you think about the topic of declassification that's happening right now in the community? I'm asking them, how do you all see this situation? How do you see the protests here in Mexico regarding the issue? Well, about about the World Cup, which is also being used for protests. And also because these are obviously things that need attention, right? We need to pay attention to these issues, right? There are many topics. Some issues catch my attention, like the matter of the teachers' positions that they are going to. Let's say they're going to give them their, what's this called? Their positions that can be inherited, right? I mean, I know that's why teachers love it, obviously. But it's also something general. There has to be some regulation. I mean, at some point, there really has to be regulation, honestly. Because if you have a position and you inherit it, then it's no longer about merit, right? It's not about what you know anymore. It's just because you're the son or the daughter, right? I mean, I understand that's how it's worked. And that in many cases, it can work well for some people. But obviously, it has to be regulated to a certain extent, right? I mean, up to certain requirements, because if not, then it really does become a problem. I don't know about you. What do you think about it? But I feel like this is a topic where there's a lot of insistence on handling it that way. And every time someone wants to, the pressure is turned up to the maximum. He doesn't say no to the inheritance of positions, says Wilkov, right? I mean, it should be purely based on merit, right? I mean, truly on merit and not because of influence or because you're a relative or anything like that, right? He greets us and says he behaved well, so we shouldn't say no. What's going on? No. Well, I think that anyone who has ever played basketball or soccer, or in this case, tennis, has gotten a little bump or a bruise at some point, right? In this case, well, I had already gotten hit by my rackets, like I said, but not at that level, right? No, clearly. This one, yes. No. That day, I also went to do other things. I went to lift weights and I went to exercise. I tell my oldest son, I dropped it after finishing my choquito. What? Michoacan? When I touched it like this, made me realize, since I hadn't seen myself in a mirror, and I had a lump there, and he says to me, wow, since you were wearing a cap, well, I hadn't seen myself, right? I mean, it was protected. Let's call it that. Well, no, it's just that this one, I didn't think it would turn purple, but it does. It gets kind of purple there. Yeah, but it's funny. And look, so many years in Taekwondo, and also at one point, I also did a bit of Kung Fu and I don't remember what else. It was because one of the teachers gave us extra classes in different martial arts besides Taekwondo. So sometimes they tell us, today we're learning X martial art. So it's really cool. And for many, many years, I even did Taekwondo. I went to tournaments, to nationals and stuff like that. I mean, never had I gotten a bruise on my face, right? And now, well, I did get bruises wherever, on my arms, on my legs. I remember that during training, there was a girl. And with the girl, you just have to fight more gently. But they tell the girl the opposite. They tell her, you have to hit him harder, right? So there was this girl, and even though we were wearing the chest protector, right? The chest protector is supposed to protect you from hits, and the girl, she was kind of skinny, but she would go boom. She would go boom. She was a girl who clearly knew how to fight. In fact, I remember she lasted about 3 or 4 months in Taekwondo. And then I think she said, no, I don't need this. I'm above that level. She was amazing. I can't remember her name, but when they lined us up, it was always kick, punch, right? So kick, and it's all pretty gentle, right? The girl would kick, then boom. No one knows how she did it. She could knock the wind out of you in an instant, even though she seemed so small. Honestly, I mean, she had an attitude like she knew how to fight. I mean, we didn't know her, right? But we'd say, no, this girl knows how to street fight, right? And I remember that one time I came home after that training, all bruised up. I mean, I've never experienced that level of strength, even with all the padding. Not even boxer friends who went to the class and hit really hard. I never got a bruise while wearing the padding. Only that girl. I mean, she had some serious power, real talent for boxing or something, right? Amazing. I don't know what happened to that girl, but she was really impressive. Some people are just really strong. I also remember there was a guy, he also gave out a lot of bruises. Was this guy more like a man, not so much a kid? Well, I saw him as a man, but I was just a kid. I must have been around 13 or 14 years old. I was already the same height as I am now. So I looked tall, right? At that time. So, I mean, I grew really fast back then. So they already put me in adult classes. Adult classes. But I was like 13. This helped me a lot in training because in tournaments, the people my age were, well, for me, they were small, right? Even though they were my age. So there was this guy who showed up. I remember he was from Rosita, Coahuila. He had some kicks, but I don't know where he got them since he was so skinny and small, And when he kicked, just like in the movies, I mean, it's actually possible for someone to kick you and make you fly through the air like that. He could do that. How? I don't know or understand where that strength came from. You never see it in tournaments or those events, but in real life, there are extremely strong people, right? Really strong. He wasn't very agile in a tournament, so you could beat him because he wasn't very good strategically. I mean, in tournaments, there are certain rules, right? But if a kick was going to hit you, well, you'd go flying. right? Literally flying like that. I remember, boom, he'd throw the kick with everything, and even though you had a chest guard, you had the protector to hold on, right? The kick would still send you flying backward.
Honestly, it was impressive.
Too bad. The guy was clearly into some really, really weird stuff, right? So I don't know what happened to him, but in a school versus school tournament, I remember they got upset because they were losing. And suddenly my teacher saw that they started pulling out nunchucks. And just like in those cheesy kung fu movies, they started pulling out nunchucks, sticks, and everything. Like they were going to beat us up. And the teacher told me, grab the prizes we had, the diplomas and everything, and run to the car. So we all started running. The whole school ran away. And no, obviously we didn't go back to the school. Later, we found out that it was a group of gang members who also studied Taekwondo. And they like to beat people up. And obviously, martial arts don't give you street smarts, right? They don't give you street smarts. Never, ever. I mean, no, on the street, it's something completely different. Nothing like real fights, right? That's something else. A whole different world. I didn't learn it the hard way myself, luckily. I learned it from a friend who was really tall and strong. He played basketball, but he wasn't good at street fights. And I remember that he had to fight with a small guy, also short, you know, like I said, those short guys. But this guy was really street smart, you know? And no, really, you can't imagine how it was. I mean, it was impressive. You realize it there, right? The teacher told us and told me that the street is one thing and martial arts is another. I mean, it helps you with certain things. It gives you some confidence to know how to take hits, to know how to act in certain situations. But the street is brutal because our teacher had lived through that. I mean, he was basically born into a very tough situation and had been in a lot of street fights, right? So he knew that side of things, you know. And he made us face reality. I mean, he would say, no, you have to understand that it's something else. That's another world. That area is brutal, brutal, brutal in every sense of the word. You know, I mean, no, not with a bunch of little rules, not with stuff like that. Like you can't hit here, you can hit here, you can't hit there. No. I mean, they're going to use whatever they have to use to beat the other person. And that's why you shouldn't get into trouble. I mean, never, ever, right? That's how it is, right? It says here I had to defend my brother. So I've been like a panther protecting him since I was a kid. Wow, that's crazy, little panther. So you got into a couple of fights out there in the street, like for your brother's sake. He says, I was good with the guys. He says, with the nunchucks. Okay. I mean, with the tacos, with the nunchucks. All right, everyone who was a fan of martial arts at that time, everyone had their nunchucks. I had my nunchucks and I could do a couple of moves. But in reality, you realize they're not really useful, right? I mean, you know, like, okay, you hit with them, but they can easily take them away from you too. You'd have to be extremely skilled for that. And the other person would have to be really bad at fighting for it to work. I don't know. I just can't imagine that they would. The nunchucks. No, I mean, I'm talking about two street experts. Like one street expert has nunchucks and the other doesn't. I don't feel like there's going to be much. I think those nunchucks can quickly turn against you. Then in the movies, it looked awesome. Pow, pow, hit one, pow, pow, hit another, and everyone just fell down. Like popcorn, right? It seemed easy, but it wasn't at all. Still, that era was really fun and entertaining. That's true. There's a lot of excitement about what you see in movies, right? Or you would get excited, and that was supposedly how you learned to defend yourself and to exercise, which was the most impressive thing, right? If you have a good coach, a good teacher, a good instructor, a good master, right? Like in Taekwondo, it's great, especially if they're creative, right? And I have the one who teaches us tennis is very creative. He's very good. He's extremely creative. I'm not sure if he realizes it, but he is. I mean, because we've had 3 or 4 coaches, all of them very good, but he's very creative. I mean, the main one we're with right now is very creative. So he gives us a lot of exercises. I mean, he knows how to handle the class to help us improve, to keep improving, to keep getting better. So that's a cool part. That's fun. It's rare. I mean, it's not very common to have, I mean, everyone who's been working out has probably come across exceptional coaches, right? And the others who, well, they're good, but some really motivate you, right? To work out, right? To overcome your own challenges, right? And all that. It's really, really fun. I mean, she says, I used to be really feisty. Remember Peppo? She says, now, no, not me. How would I recognize you? Hey, you're my little cousin. What do you mean feisty? Not at all. Not me. How would you see that? No, I don't see you as feisty at all. Super quiet. You hardly talked. You hardly chatted. No, not feisty. But when you did say something, Lily, it really hit. But no, you were very, very sharp with your comments. Right? But no, not feisty, no. I didn't know that. Did she really get into fights and all that? I didn't know. Or maybe with my cousins. I mean, with your siblings. Yeah, that's true. But out on the street, I don't think so, right? Yeah, no. But yeah, your brothers did get their beatings, of course. He says the quiet ones are the most dangerous, says Wilco. No, yeah. That's true. I even got into hair pulling fights. And I didn't know that, Lily. No, well, that's it. And send us the audio. Tell us, how did I do? No. Yes, you really were tough, you know. Or maybe you still are, right? Really good, right? Well, that's fine. She says, I even fought pulling hair, but only with family. Okay. Really good. Well, there you go. I mean, well, hey, let's go. We have a report that's a bit outside of the usual news because it's interesting. How about that? I wanted to keep it separate. And some other matters, right? If something happens, we'll update it. Well, let's go to the next report. Let me just check if I think it's ready. It's called Pentagon Reports on a Craft, in quotes, because we don't really know what they're referring to, but that's what they're reporting. We're going to talk about the riots in Switzerland and the fires in Spain, in Galicia. I don't know if there's any other fire you'd like me to report on. If there is, please let me know, and we'll add it right now, obviously, to the information. What grabs my attention first is what's happening in Galicia, right? So let's talk about it. How are you? You say the top 10% controls 90% and 1% of humanity controls 99%. Let's see. How was it? Let's see. The top 10% controls 90% and 1% of humanity controls 99%, right? You say, now, controls. Do you mean financially? Like they have purchasing power or control? What kind of control are you talking about? Let's see, Eddie, explain yourself, please. And your comment is very interesting. Says Jalana. And Jalala, I grew up in the neighborhood, and since I was very young, says Jalala, I had to earn respect through fighting. So many fights that I lost count. That was from age 12 to 18, then I matured, and I don't remember how many anymore. Look how interesting, Jalala. I mean, no. Well, it's just, yeah. I mean, there are people who have that, I don't know, that need or that urgency, whatever it is. I didn't have. I had that situation. Yeah. There were 2-3 moments that were almost fights. But usually like at the last moment, we wouldn't go for the conflict, for the fight, you know? 2 or 3 times we were really close, like with the only one. The last fight was in kindergarten, and it was with my best friend. I mean, at that point, I didn't know him, and we started fighting. I don't even remember why. And from there, our moms talked to each other, like, let them get together, let them hang out so they don't fight anymore and stuff like that. And they brought us together. From then on, we became great friends. And it's true that since kindergarten, we still talk and keep in touch to this day. And whenever we can, we get together, right? But yeah, it's almost every day. Like, hey, my buddy, what's up? What are you doing? And stuff like that. There's a real brotherhood there, you know? It's really cool. So that was kind of my experience with a street fight, really, back in kindergarten, right? I mean, in a private school, like inside the school, it was just like hit, and that was it. Some of my friends got into a lot of fights. Several times people tried to pick fights with me and set the terms, like telling me to meet them at a certain place and time. And I would say, no, buddy, I'm not going to do what you want. Like, leave me out of that, man. I was really argumentative, insisting, if you're going to fight, it has to be at this time and place.
We were there, right? In both places.
No, well, in the end, that's it, right? I mean, nothing ever happened, man. The next day when they greeted me, it was just normal. What's up? Hey, what's up? What's up? Never went beyond that. Really weird. But I also thought it was really weird. Why? If you want to fight, you want to set the conditions of where and how, right? Basically, right? No, it didn't make sense to me. So I started to argue. Like, wait, but no, not there, not even at home. And so we started to, yeah, no, it didn't happen. And yeah, no, it hasn't happened to me. I have a lot of friends who, I don't know why, right? I mean, it's like they were magnets for fights. Magnets. Yeah, magnets. Many of them were because of fights, right? I also had a short friend like that. Short guys are something else. Well, not actually short, but let's call him short since he always fought tall guys, right? I remember that one time we used to call him, well, better not say what we called him, but he was really tall because he's also a friend, right? So they're both friends. But this one is really tall and huge, right? And then the YO is shorter. He's strong, but he's short. He just jumped, grabbed his neck, and threw him down. I mean, but in seconds, really fast, way too fast. And once he was down, he didn't do anything, right? I mean, he couldn't get up. He just didn't let him get up, actually. I mean, really, it's more about skill, right? I mean, it's more about skill and mentality, you know, more about fighting mindset than anything else, I think, in those cases, right? So that's why boxing or taekwondo, whatever it is, it's really cool, right? As exercise, you know, with rules. It does help you a bit, obviously. It does help with something to defend yourself, obviously. To not be so afraid of getting hit or whatever, and to know what to do and how and what not to do, etc., etc. Other than that, out on the street, it's a whole different story, right? Obviously, right? Especially if you were taught martial arts with self-defense. Because self-defense it's a very different level from what they show on the internet. Nothing to do with it. I mean, real self-defense already has a level of violence that obviously is never suggested, right? In fact, teachers usually don't teach it. Those classes, unless you're already at a certain level, that you have a certain maturity, and they almost never do it, right? I mean, real self-defense almost never makes it into actual classes because it's very dangerous. I mean, it's not good for that kind of information to just circulate and for anyone to be able to use it, right? For things they shouldn't. So I also understand that this topic is very restricted. I mean, that's what's supposed to be done. I've seen that. And then you get ads for Krav Maga and I don't know how many martial arts, like ultra super military ones, right? And you think, I don't know, right? I don't know if because this in the wrong hands could also well easily go wrong, right? And it's dangerous. Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. Cut? No, let's go to the next one.